Now we're going to be talking about, as you can see behind us, the Chief Justice suspended, and all the matters arising now that that committee, which has been put together, will commence its sittings. Joining the conversation is Member of Parliament for Manhyia South, also a lawyer, Nana Ejay Bafo Ewa. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I am very well. It's been a while. I hope you're keeping well too.
By the grace of God, we are good. And I can tell you're also keeping well.
We are here. We're alive. As we will say, so we thank God for life and strength. It's good to have you join the conversation. So far, with everything you've seen in respect of the CJ as suspended, and now with these processes kicking in, what are your initial thoughts before we even get into what your expectations are of the committee's work?
Thank you very much for another opportunity, my brother. If you look at so far our involvement in the process, we started by raising caution in terms of our approach, and then subsequently we got to the stage of the suspension, and we made known what we thought of it, the fact that there was some constitutional deficiency, which was a position subsequently also taken by the Ghana Bar Association, and there was so much controversy. We've gone past it. Now we find ourselves here. I have confidence that so far, given the composition of the committee, we hope to see justice being done. Except to say that we need to elevate the conversation to take a very nationalistic view, which is that for such processes, right, we need to look beyond the person involved, right? Very respectfully, for want of a better example, let's even say you have a Shylock involved, right?
You have a what involved?
You have a Shylock.
Oh, from Merchant of Venice.
Yes, you have a Shylock involved. Right. You still would want to see compliance with due process of law. And that is why at this stage, for instance, I would want us to look at this whole process and ask ourselves again that as a nation, the Constitution has sanctioned the an in-camera hearing. That is a secret proceedings, right? And we don't even know the procedure that will govern the hearing. Okay? And so it is something that we must ponder on. I'm saying that I have confidence in the personnel so far constituted. You have distinguished Supreme Court judges involved. The other persons I know very little about, but I have no reason to doubt their credibility. But for fairness, there ought to be predictability in the process. Where is the rules that govern it? I've heard, for instance, that in the case of Madame Charlotte Osei, the procedure was agreed upon at the stage of the hearing. What people fail to see, and that is why I'm highlighting...
My apologies. Let me seek clarity here. I have read documentation that points to, since you are talking of processes, I have read some documentation that points to the fact that she did not even get to see what her accusations were before, the point where shortly before or right at when she had to respond.
That is problematic.
To these accusations.
Problematic, and that is problematic. It was problematic then, except to say that this time, we know that, if what has been leaked into the public domain is anything to go by, then we would say that we know the persons who petitioned, right?
Yeah, but in this instance, a request was made. The presidency said they were in the course of doing that anyway, and they furnished the CJ with the petitions, right? But in that instance,
so
it appears she was barred totally from getting them.
No, Benjamin, I haven't faulted it. I haven't faulted anything, right? And I'm not comparing the two to say that one is better than the other.
Right.
I am saying that if you look, for instance, the electoral commissioner, the appointment of the electoral commissioner doesn't even go through parliament. You have the appointment of the chief justice going through parliament. Okay. Now, unlike ministers of state, the judges and the electoral commissioner and the chief justice, their removal is provided for by the Constitution. I have stated previously that I believe that the removal was provided for in the Constitution to secure their independence, right? And indeed, also acknowledge the processes and the philosophy behind the process, right, for their appointment. Okay. Now, the point I am making is that let's make sure there is greater accountability in the removal processes by providing for a prior regulation to govern the proceedings, so that it is not a case that we have, something that we come up with as and when the situation occurs. That really, very respectfully, takes away predictability and makes it, a kangaroo-like process, which is not good.
And of course, we know how important precedent is as far as the law is concerned, and also reliability of what processes will culminate in, right?
Yes. Yes. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not blaming the government because it is something that it came to meet. Okay? And so when you look at the Supreme Court case of Ejechum, for instance, they made recommendations as to what should be done, right? And I'm reliably informed that the previous Attorney General, the former Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, was in the process of putting together a regulation when the tenure of office of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo came to an end, right? I believe that going forward, that is very necessary. Otherwise, we personalize the whole proceeding and make it seem like the nation is the nation versus the Chief Justice, right? When it is supposed to be, it's the nation against the person occupying the office of Chief Justice. When it is supposed to be the office per se.
Right. But don't you think it's a missed opportunity? You see, some of these things, you can never tell. You can never tell how voters will go. And you speak about the former AG, Godfrey Dame, and some plans that could have been in the works. But the likes of Martin Kpebu, in recent months, when he's spoken about this, he also references the fact that back then, when he kept bringing this matter, that look, when it comes to the judiciary and some of these clauses, we have to take a second look at them. People said he was only saying it for certain interests. And now it's coming back to bite the system, so to speak. Again, what do you think should be the way forward, especially as we have the likes of Kwesi Prempeh and a second bite at the constitutional review? What do you think can be done in the immediate term?
I think that, I'm going to be very frank with you. There's something we need to appreciate as a people. There is nothing which is perfect from scratch.
Right.
I wasn't expecting a perfect constitution, but I was expecting a progressive society and a progressive Supreme Court that when it gets an opportunity to interpret some of these things, they will bring a more progressive perspective to it. For instance, I would dare say, and I want to be quoted right, that I think that on the issue of Article 146 of the Constitution, it is the Supreme Court of the Republic of Ghana that has disappointed us and not the framers of the Constitution. I have heard, for instance, Madam Sophia Akuffo, the former Chief Justice.
And I was about to reference her. Go ahead.
Yes, made comments about how lax that whole provision is. But you see, go to a place like the United States of America. They don't have a constitution which is as voluminous as ours. Okay? But it's supposed to be interpreted to give meaning and grow it. And that is why I constantly love to quote Saga when he says that the Constitution is a living organism. Okay? When the opportunity comes, there must be a very comprehensive interpretation, right, that would see growth. Okay? But when you look at Article 146 and the way the Supreme Court has approached it, I believe that in the future, when they should have the opportunity, they should take a very critical look at it again. Because you see, I've heard some commentators say, yes, a J-Chum came to resolve it. If a J-Chum came to resolve it, then the Supreme Court in the Terry case, right, wouldn't have come to say that they think that the prima facie should take a certain approach. You understand?
Right.
Go and look at the Ghana Attorney General versus Ghana Bar Association. A certain perspective was taken. When it came to a J2, they took a more, they took a step further from the Ghana Bar Association authority. Then in the Terry case, they didn't even say by way of ratio, but rather obita, right, in terms of what they think should be done as far as the prima facie determination is concerned.
Right.
That should tell you that when you take the three cases that I've just listed, right, not much of a comprehensive work was done by our Supreme Court in respect of Article 146 of the Constitution. That is why we are where we are today. All I am saying is that when cases come to our Supreme Court for determination, let the court very respectfully do a more thorough work by looking into the future than seeking to, do what we are, by going along the lines of where we find ourselves today.
Right.
And let all politicians begin to look at things from a more nationalistic approach, right? Because, my brother, when we are in office for 4 years. Tomorrow, the people of Mensah South may decide that I shouldn't be in office tomorrow. Tomorrow, touch wood, I may not be alive, but my children may be alive. Let's all begin to look at things from a more holistic and nationalistic perspective. And that is why I'm also recommending that the situation where, when issues relating to Article 146 comes up, and then we think it is okay for the committee to now come up with a procedure to regulate proceedings, for me, it is inappropriate. There ought to be a proper regulation, which we all know ahead of time, that will regulate the proceedings.
Right. It's interesting because it's just yesterday I was trying to find the article. I was reading something about the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the United States, and some wranglings in there, even on the back of Trump's actions when it comes to institutions of higher learning. There have been some concerns taken to the courts and all of that. Even there, where there are 9 members and it's not a perfect system. There's no perfect system anywhere, like you rightly mentioned. But just before I get to your expectations of the process, it's in camera. We are not going to get to know what is going to happen against the wishes of some people who said, she should opt for it, but the Constitution is clear that it should be in camera. I've heard the likes of Sophia Akuffo speak. She says she's not speaking against the administration, but of course there are certain things and changes that ought to happen. A former director, Mr. Asare of the Ghana School of Law, has spoken. He thinks there are issues, questions that need answers from the Chief Justice as suspended. I've spoken to a former president of the Ghana Bar Association who thinks same. There is Justice Atuguba, as you well know, recently retired, who has also spoken to the issues. When it comes to the panel, their sittings, what can we expect? And what are your expectations, basically?
I know, I hope they will do justice, not by Madam Sophia Kufu, but justice by the people of the Republic of Ghana.
You say hope. Do you trust they will? I mean, you know the members of the panel. Do you trust they will?
I have no reason to doubt them.
You have no reason to doubt them. All right. Well, maybe just a final bit in there before I bring in a final issue. What would you want to see as part of the process? Though we can't see the process, but in the end, what would convince you that that process has been free, fair, transparent? What are some of the signs you would want to see?
It is very difficult to say what you would want to see in terms of the process, because the process is in camera, so there's nothing I can see as far as the process is concerned. But in the end, I would want to see a very reasoned decision, right, being made public, because even if the proceedings is in camera, I believe that the decision should be made public. Because, again, the Chief Justice went through a certain procedure in terms of a certain process in terms of her appointment that involved the representatives of the people of the Republic of Ghana.
Right.
Okay. And she's been removed, right, in a constitutionally sanctioned procedure which doesn't involve the representatives of the Republic of Ghana.
Right.
The people themselves would therefore not get to see or participate in the process, either directly by watching what goes on, and their representatives are far removed also from it. The only way they will be able to tell whether what transpired was fair or not is a reasoned decision. That will be for public record.
Right.
And so I think that is very necessary.
Okay. The final bit, though, I just want to run by you because it's become topical on different fronts. The CEO of Goldboard, Sami Gyamfi, whom the acting CEO, I should say, whom there was this accusation against in respect of giving some money out to Mama Pat, Nana Agrada. There are many who have come to his defense and spoken about his character as an individual and how this was just, a blip. We've also heard from the presidency saying that he's been given a stern warning, which is part of the code of conduct as per the presidency in recent times, and that he should go and sin no more. What's your quick reaction to that?
Ordinarily, because you had not told me this was part of the issues we're going to discuss, I wouldn't have commented on it. But I'll tell you something. Ordinarily, I wouldn't, but this one, I'll tell you something. Let's begin to elevate national conversation. Let's look at ways we want to sustain our democracy beyond personalities, so that if the personalities are coming in, right, they are coming in because we are not looking at them, but we are looking at the future of our democracy. That is how I want to look at things. Okay? So ordinarily, this issue, I don't think, perhaps because it is Mr. Sami Gyamfi, who we all know can be very abrasive in terms of his attack. That is his political style, right? But question is this: where do we want to get with our democracy? Are the things we are doing today the kind that would make the democracy sustainable in the next 8 to 20 years? Right? If they are not, then we need to all advise ourselves, not just Sami Gyamfi, even myself as a politician.
Right.
We are all guilty one way or the other, by one conduct or the other. You understand? And so if it is of the kind that will make democracy unattractive to the masses, then we need to revise it. So perhaps
on that very point, just to add on to that point, so you conclude, there are those who said that his head had to roll. But I've listened to anti-graft campaigners, including the likes of Edem Sedano, among others, who have said that, it was not in good taste, especially considering certain surrounding issues, but that it is not enough grounds on which to say the person ought to be dismissed, looking at what work he's done and all of that. Do you agree with that standpoint?
Let me draw your mind. Let me draw your attention to something. In the 60s, a minister of state of this country called Krobweduse went to England, bought a golden bed, and gave a tip of £5. This was in the 60s. In England, which at the time was not a cashless society, right? And it was unheard of. It made news at the time in England, which was not a cashless society. So you can imagine that in a cashless Western society now, if a public official should give money in the kind which my brother did, it would have raised a major uproar. Is that the democracy we want in Ghana? If it is the democracy we want in Ghana, then this is certainly an issue. Okay? As to whether or not his head should roll, right? For me, I don't think it rests with me. It rests with the president and his judgment on the issues. But for us as a nation, what kind of democracy do we want? Especially considering the volatility around us now.
Right.
Okay? Where, the alternative to democracy is becoming attractive, or is being made attractive by some Western nations. Okay? Is this what we want? Because you have growing unemployment in our country. You have, even within the NDC, there are a lot of people that they will not be able to satisfy by way of even appointment and other opportunities that come with government. Okay? And so that definitely is likely to generate envy. And they are going to look at such actions and condemn it. And if you monitor social media, you had NDC people condemning what happened. Okay? Now, if tomorrow the alternative to democracy is sold to the Ghanaian people, who are supposed to be the vanguards of our democracy, would they stand up to defend democracy because of our conduct as politicians? Should be the discussion.
Okay.
Because if the people will not stand up to defend democracy, particularly taking into account the recent Afrobarometer survey, then we have a problem. And so you and I, who have been presented the opportunity by democracy to be who we are today, very respectfully, you can sit on radio and speak. You have a job opportunity there, because until democracy, there was only one radio station in Ghana, which was GBC.
Right.
Until democracy, there was no parliament for me, right? The son of Efia Bouadoua to be part of it. Until democracy, there wasn't that kind of freedom with which lawyers even practice law. And very respectfully, some degree of prosperity that came with it, for which reason today I can call myself a lawyer happily. And so democracy has presented to us various opportunities, for which reason it is a better alternative than all the systems available.
Okay.
If that is the case, we need to guard it jealously. And therefore, when looking at matters of this nature, we can tell him that, bro, you may be generous, you may be a good man. However, for the optics, this might not be appropriate.
Right.
And so going forward, let us all check our conduct. So it's not just some agency.
Right.
It should be a message to all of us politicians that let's begin to check our conduct going forward. Because a hungry man is an angry man.
Right.
When a hungry man sees that you have been in power for just 4 months, okay? You've been in power for just 4 months, and you can share this money. When he previously didn't see a video of you sharing this money, when he previously don't know where you work, because I don't think that Sami Jamfi will not be able to, doesn't have $10,000. I don't think so.
Right.
He's been a lawyer for some time. I don't know the work he does. I don't know who he's connected to. So he might have various sources that can give him that amount of money. However, it may not be good for the optics.
Okay.
You see, just as the Bible says, all things may be permissible, but not all things are legal.
Right.
All things may be legal, but not all things are permissible.
Are good to be done.
So we need to be guided.
Okay. Thank you,
welcome.
J. Bafwewa. It's been good having you this morning, and I wish you the best of the day, sir.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. He's a lawyer. He's also Member of Parliament for Menchia South. And of course...